Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with part 2 of my 3-part series of the best of 2021. The last couple of years I did my best of video in one part, and it was getting kind of long last year. I think it was over 40 minutes long, and I realized it was going to be even longer this time. And I know no one wants to watch a video that long, so I broke this up into 3 parts. The first part, if you haven't seen it already, covered headphones. This is the second part, and this is about headphone amps. And the third part, which I hope to get out in a couple days, will cover headphone amp DAC combinations, DACs, and accessories. I just wanted to mention that my recommendations here are based on products that I've actually heard and reviewed. I'm not saying these are the absolute best available. I'm just saying that these are my favorites of what I've actually reviewed. And I didn't review all of these this year. Some of these I reviewed a year or two ago, but still really like them, and if they're still available, I'm recommending them. So basically, I review what is loaned to me for review. I don't have the financial means to go out and buy a bunch of headphones and amps or whatever just to do reviews, so I rely on products being loaned to me by the companies that make them. And also, another thing I don't want to do is buy something with the intention of returning it. I don't want to buy something knowing that as soon as I get done reviewing it, I'm going to return it, because that, lowers the value of the product. The manufacturer, if they refund my money, they have to eat that cost, probably turn around and sell it as an open box item, lose money, and all that does is increase prices for everybody, and puts a lot of things out of reach of the normal person. So anyway, I'm going to get into my review here, and I'm going to start at the bottom end, my budget recommendations. So my first category is headphone amps under $100, and this is an amp I reviewed, probably 2 years ago, but I haven't heard anything yet that I think beats it in its price range, and that would be the JDS Labs Atom at $99, and it is a very clean sounding amp, a little on the analytical side. There's not a whole lot of warmth to it, but it has decent power, will power most headphones, and measures real well, and at $99 I haven't heard anything yet that can beat it. Jumping up to my next category, that would be $100 to $249. And my recommendation in that category is the Ifi Zen Can. It's a pretty versatile amp. It sells for $199. It has really decent power. In fact, I think the measurements are conservative. I had absolutely no problem driving the Hi-Fi-Man HE560, which requires about twice as much power as the Hi-Fi-Man Sundara, and even more power than the Hi-Fi-Man Aria. And not only did it drive that well from the balanced output, but it also drove it well from the single-ended output. So great power, really good sounding, very clean, very low background noise amp, and it has a couple of extra features. It has not only, I think, 4 gain settings, but it also has the extra bass button, which boosts the bass, I believe, 12 decibels. And it also has a 3D matrix type of thing that I think they just call it 3D. It's creates a larger, more expansive soundstage, and it's done artificially, but it's kind of simulates listening to speakers instead of headphones. But anyway, that is definitely my top recommendation in this category. I do want to give an honorable mention to the Topping A50S, which sells for $219. Very, very clean sounding amp, pretty good power. As far as measurements, I think it's rated almost as high as the Zen Can, but doesn't seem to have quite as much power in reality. But anyway, very clean, nice little amp, molded, not molded, machined out of a solid block of aluminum. It's only about so big, but my only complaint about it, very small, and it's kind of hard for me to use the controls and all that, go through the menu, whatever. It's just small, but I would prefer it being a little bit bigger. But if you're short on space, a desktop or whatever, really great little amp. And then I also did want to mention the Ifi Zen Deck, which isn't as good of an amp as the Zen Can. It doesn't have as much power. It doesn't have the 3D thing, but it does have the extra bass, and it does have a pretty good built-in DAC with it at $189. So I recommend that also. If you need a combination DAC and amp at $189, can't be beat in my opinion. Jumping up to the next category, which is $250 to $499. I realized, I didn't notice this until tonight, I haven't reviewed anything in that price range. So what I'm going to do, instead of just leaving that blank, and like I said earlier, I'm not recommending anything I haven't heard, but what I am going to do is I'm going to take a chance here, recommend the Ifi Zen Can Signature. This is sort of a deluxe version of the Zen Can. I haven't actually heard it, but I'm assuming if the Zen Can is as good as it is, the Signature is probably even better, and that sells for $299, so I'm going to guess that you probably can't go wrong at that price for that amp. Another recommendation, it's something I haven't heard, but the Topping A90 amp is selling for $499 right now, and I have not reviewed that, but I've reviewed 3 Topping DACs in the last year and a half, and I've reviewed 1 Topping amp, and they've all been outstanding, and I've heard nothing but good about the Topping A90 on my headphone group. I have heard it can be a little bit on the dry analytical side, but it's supposed to be extremely well measuring and extremely clean. And at $499, I'm assuming that you probably can't go wrong with that either. Getting into the next category, which is $500 through $999. My top recommendation in that is an amp that I've reviewed a couple of years ago. Actually, I reviewed the original version. There is now a second version of it, but the difference is, as far as I know, they just added 2 extra inputs. It used to have 1 input, and now it has a selector switch for 3 inputs, and that would be the Felix Audio Echo 2, which is an OTL Type 2 amp, and I've had this amp for a couple of years. I really, really like this amp. I love the sound of it. It works with just about any dynamic headphone, even especially high impedance headphones like 300, 600 ohm headphones. It worked extremely well with the ZMF Verite Open that I had earlier this year. Very good combination. And anyway, I haven't actually heard the Echo 2, but as far as I know, the difference is the 3 choices of inputs, which is a nice feature. Price wise, if you buy that, I think going through Felix Audio, you're looking at 799 euros, which works out to about 916 US dollars, or in the US, you can buy it through Upscale Audio, and I believe their price is 999 US dollars. Another amp that I wanted to mention, because not everyone's looking for a OTL type tube amp, is the Burson Audio Playmate 2, which is a combination amp DAC. You do get a DAC with it at $549. Just a really nice amp, really clean, low background noise, and it's got a lot of power. It'll power just about any headphone. Had absolutely no problem with the Hi-Fi Man HE560, and has a pretty nice built-in DAC with it, and that's $549. And then my last recommendation in this category is an amp I reviewed a couple of years ago. And at the time, I don't think I realized how good this amp sounded. It's just it's a solid state amp, but it has a very warm tube-like sound. And I hadn't reviewed much I don't think I had reviewed any tube amps at that point. And now I just realized that that was probably the most tube-like solid state amp I've ever heard. And it's a pretty nice little amp. It's nice looking. That's the Urzetish Bacillus tilia, and that sells for $905.51 in US dollars after you do the conversion from euros. I think $7.99 was the price in euros. Jumping up to the next category, and I've reviewed a lot of amps in this category, and there's some pretty heavy hitters. This is the $1,000 to $1,999 category. And my first pick is going to be an amp that I haven't even done a full review on yet. All I've done is my first impressions, and that would be the amp in the picture behind me, and that is the Waveborn Edelweiss 3 Power Amp Plus. And to tell you the truth, this isn't even really in production yet. This is a prototype amp that I was asked to review, and the price on this hasn't even been 100% decided yet, but probably the owner of Wayborne told me he's probably looking at $1,450 on this amp, and this is just probably the best sounding amp I've ever heard. Just beautiful tube-like warm sound with exceptional detail, a huge sound stage, very good depth, very little background noise, and it actually has an attenuator on it. This thing is actually capable of putting out 3 watts per channel into 16 ohms, and has plenty of power to drive my HE560, which is very unusual for a tube amp to be able to do that. But this was made for either for high impedance planar headphones, or even or high impedance dynamic headphones, or even hard to drive planar headphones. And what it has is an attenuator knob, which you can adjust the output of it, other than your volume knob. You've got that, and you set the attenuator at a low level for easy to drive dynamic headphones that are efficient, or you can crank it all the way up to the high end for hard to drive planar headphones. And it's just, I haven't seen that before on an amp, and it works out really well. It makes it really versatile, and just really like this amp. And there are some excellent amps in this category, and I'm going to mention them, but it's just too bad that they that they got set aside because of this one. Since I've had this, I can't stop listening to it. I'm listening to it more than any other amp right now. But I did want to mention some really great amps in this price range that I have reviewed. I'm going to start with the Amp Gsx Mini. It's just a beautiful sounding amp, a little bit on the warm side of neutral, but very detailed and exceptionally clean. Non-existent background noise, and probably it's up there with the cleanest, most detailed of any amp I've heard. Just a really nice amp, and that the price begins at $17.95, but the one that I actually reviewed would be $19.95 because it had an upgrade volume control on it. It had a resistor ladder volume control instead of the standard potentiometer, but just a really great amp in my opinion. Another one I want to mention is the Audio GD Master 9, which currently sells through Audio GD for $1,430, which is an incredible deal in my opinion, although you will have to pay probably another $150 to $180 in shipping to get it to the United States, because it is large, it is heavy, and it costs some money to get it shipped. But just this is an amp that I actually own. I've had it for over 3 years now, and in my opinion it holds its own against any amp I've reviewed, and it's just extremely versatile because of the 5 sets of inputs and the 3 sets of outputs on it. And it has enough power for just about, for any headphone. I think it's rated about 9 watts per channel into 32 ohms. It's never run short on power with anything, and it has 2 gain settings, and with even with IEMs, I hear no background noise at all. So just extremely versatile amp. It's very large. It's 17 inches square by about 4 inches tall and weighs in at 32 pounds. So you need a lot of space. Definitely not a desktop amp. You know, you're going to need an audio rack or shelf to hold that one. Another really great amp in this price range that I reviewed this year is the Burson Conductor 3 Reference, which has a built-in DAC, so it is a DAC amp combo. It sells for $1,744, and it is a fantastic amp in my opinion. Very versatile, has a lot of inputs. It has preamp functions. It has a menu that you can adjust everything. You can go through it, and it has a really nice built-in DAC. And that even the DAC has, I think, like 6 or 8 different settings for digital filters and all that. And it's got a ton of power. I think it's rated at 5 watts per channel into 32 ohms, and like 7 watts per channel, or 7.5 watts per channel into 16 ohms. It's got enough power for any headphone. Very clean, very detailed, just a great amp. I got one more I want to mention in this price range, and that's an amp that I haven't done my full review on yet. I have done my first impressions. I've only had it a couple of weeks, and that's a Wells Audio Dragon. It's the level 1 version. There's 3 different versions of it. The level 1 goes for $1,500, and it is a solid state tube hybrid amp, and really enjoying it so far. Very clean sound, very detailed, and the thing's got a ton of power. So if you want the warmth of tubes but the power of solid state, and this thing should have enough power to drive just about any headphone. It is very large though. It's I think about 11 inches wide, about 16 inches deep, and about 7 inches tall. I think it weighs in about 16 pounds. It is a large amp, but so far really enjoying it. And it's got the warmth of tubes, but just a ton of power backing it, where you can use it with just about any headphone. I'm going to jump up to my last category, and I've only reviewed a couple of headphone amps in this category, and that would be over $2,000. And my choice in this category would be the Spl Finiter Xe. I reviewed that, I don't know, about 1.5 years ago. Really enjoyed it. It retails right now at $21.99 in US dollars, and that is just the amp by itself. There is an optional built-in DAC, which I think adds about $600 to the price. I have not heard the DAC version, but I spent a couple months with the just amp version, and that's the Spl Finiter Xe, and just a very clean, very nice amp with a ton of features. It's beautiful to look at. It has those VU meters on the front, and it has a really interesting feature that I think is called the Matrix by SPL. It's a crossfeed. It's an adjustable crossfeed with several different adjustments. You can adjust the amount of crossfeed as a percentage, you know, how much of the sound is fed over to the other side. You can adjust the angle where it's made to sound like speakers, and with the adjustable angle you can make it sound like the speakers are either pretty close to each other in front of you or real wide, and it's just really cool. Messed around with that a lot, and if you want to know more about that, check out my video from probably almost 2 years ago, my review of that, but I explained how the whole Matrix thing works. But just a really nice amp, and that I really enjoyed, and I've heard nothing but good about it from people on my headphone group. And if you're looking for a high-end solid state amp that and I've heard it's exceptional with high impedance headphones. I didn't have any high impedance headphones at the time I had that, but I heard that it has a real high voltage output and works real well with like 600 ohm headphones. So yeah, totally recommend that. Another one I want to recommend in that category is a headphone amp I reviewed probably about 1.5 years ago, and that's the Wells Audio Milo. The Milo actually, the price starts at $16.99, but the version that I reviewed I think went for about $2,200. I know it had an upgrade volume control. It was a resistor ladder type volume control, and it had some upgrade resistors and different things. So anyway, the one I actually reviewed sold for about $2,200, and it's a really cool looking amp, and the thing has tons of power. If you were looking for an amp that just has unlimited power that can power any headphone on the planet, the Wells Audio Milo is going to do that. I believe the power rating on that is 12 watts per channel into 32 ohms. It's something like 0.006% distortion, something like that. Just huge amounts of power on hand. The only complaint I have about that amp is because there's no gain control, and it has a huge amount of gain, something like 30 decibels. It's not a good choice for high efficient, easy to drive headphones. If you have a easy to drive headphone, you will pick up some background hiss with it, but anything from like the Hi-Fi Man Sandara to anything harder to drive than that, you're not going to hear any background hiss at all, and it just has unlimited power and takes control of your headphone like no other amp I've heard. So if you've got power hungry headphones, that's my recommendation in that price category. You can get it under $2,000, or you can get the the upgrades that puts it a little over $2,000, or I think there's like a reference version of it that's quite a bit more. I haven't heard that, but anyway, so that completes my categories. I do have some awards I want to give out for some other categories here, so I'm gonna go with those. My most bang for the buck Headphone Amp of the Year award goes to the Ifi Zen Can at $199. I just think it's an extremely good sounding amp at that price. It's got a lot of features and the power to drive most headphones, probably all but the very hardest. I mean, I need to get a hold of a Hi-Fi Man HE6 or HE6 SE, which is pretty much the hardest headphone to drive on the planet, and that way I can really tell you if these amps can drive any headphone. But that amp had no problems at all with the HE560. just very impressed. And for $199, I think, you know, most bang for the buck. So my award for most versatile headphone amp, I couldn't decide on this one, so I'm gonna I'm gonna pick two on this. I'm gonna go with the Audio GD Master 9 that sells at $1430, and the reason for that is just so many inputs, so many outputs, 5 sets of inputs, 3 sets of outputs, and with the gain control, I can use it with just about any headphone and enough power for any, and for those reasons it's been my reference amp for 3 years now. Very large, very heavy, but very versatile. And like I said, this is a tie. I'm going to give it to the Burson Conductor 3 reference. Once again, just a very versatile amp that'll do just about anything, and I think it has 3 sets of inputs and 2 outputs on it. One is preamp, volume controlled, the other is fixed, so you can use it as a standalone deck. And like I said earlier, it does have a very good built-in DAC, and for the price of $1744, you're getting a really good amp and a really good DAC all in one package. So my award for cleanest sound, the most clean, lowest background, most detailed headphone amp, I'm going to give that to the Amp Gsx Mini, which starts at $1795. The version I reviewed went for $1995, but just incredibly clean sounding amp in my opinion. Give me just a second here. Sorry, I heat with wood, and my house is dry and my throat starts drying out when I get about 20 minutes into a video. Not quite that. I think I'm about 16 minutes in. Anyway, and then my award for best solid state amp, I'm going to go with the Finiter Xe by SPL. That sells for $21.99. Just a fantastic amp in every way. There was really nothing I didn't like about that amp. Excuse me. Best hybrid amp, I'm going to give that one to the Wells Audio Dragon. Just a very powerful amp with a nice, with that tube touch to the sound. Gives it, you know, a little bit of warmth and a little bit of tube sound, but yet the power of a big solid state amp that should be able to drive just about anything. Best tube amp of the year, well, of any that I've heard up to this point. It was my pick in the 1000 to 1999 category. That's the Edelweiss 3 by Waveborn. The Power Amp Plus, and that will probably sell at $14.50. Like I said, this is a prototype. It's not even really on the market yet, so that price could change. Please don't hold a Waveborn to that price, because as you probably have seen and know, the price of everything is going up right now. Just huge jumps in the prices of audio equipment. Some haven't changed, but some have gone up a lot. Anyway, that amp once again is in the picture behind me. That's my choice for the best tube amp that I've heard so far. My award for the most tube-like sound from a solid state amp, I'm going to give that to the Erzatish Bacillus Tilia. Reviewed that a couple of years ago, and it's just got a warm, rich, beautiful sound to it. I remember listening to that with the original the original Kennerton Magni. No, not Magni, the original Kennerton Valley, which is a headphone I still love, but I remember just how rich and warm and beautiful that headphone sounded on that amp. It's not hugely powerful. It's not going to be a good match with planar headphones. It will drive some of the easier to drive planar headphones, like some of the Kennertons, but Hi-Fi Man planar headphones are just too much. But it works real well with, should work fine with any dynamic headphone, and like I said, just sounded incredible with the Kennerton Valley. So that sells for $905 in US dollars. And then my last award of this video is Headphone Amp of the Year. And if you haven't figured it out already, this is an amp I just absolutely love and don't want to ever stop listening to. It just the sound of it is just so incredible, and that's the Waveborn Edelweiss 3 Power Amp Plus, once again pictured behind me. Once again, it's just a prototype, and it's not really, you know, on the market yet, and it's gone through several changes. This is actually the second and third version of this that I've actually had the chance to listen to, and there's an even newer version of it, the 2022 version. This would be, I guess this would be the last of the 2021 versions, and each version changes a little bit. And now Wayborne is working on the 2022 version, which is using a larger chassis and 2 more tubes. Instead of 4 tubes, it's using 6, which is 2 driving each channel. So, and that, it's a bigger amp, more tubes, so the price probably will be higher. So I'm not sure, but anyway, I love this amp and just absolutely love the way it sounds. So my Headphone Amp of the Year award, once again, the Waveborn Edelweiss 3 Power Amp Plus. And so that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. On next couple days, I'm going to try to get the third part of this video out, which will be combination Headphone Amp DACs, standalone DACs, and accessories. And so I need to wrap this up. It's getting long. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you are all welcome to join us at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. I think we're very near 15,000 members and continue to grow. So I'd like to see you all over there. Once again, thanks for watching my video.